Hey everyone, so like a week and a half ago I was tagged to do the Tolkien Tag by Lydia at Something Like Lydia. I've kind of been running low on time, so I'm finally getting around to doing it, and I am so excited to do this tag because Tolkien and The Lord of the Rings is something that's been really prominent in my life. Question number one is, so how does your Middle-earth story begin? I was in grade 6, and I was a bit of a quiet kid, and the Fellowship of the Ring was coming out in theaters. I can't believe how long ago that was. And everyone was going on about how they were going to go see this movie, but I was such a wuss when it came to anything that could be scary and those ring wraiths. So the one day, my mom and I were out shopping, and they actually had all three of the Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit for a deal, movie tie-in, whatever. So my mom, being my mom, knew I loved reading and thought, okay, you know what, I'll get you these books. The movies are coming out, why don't you read the books instead? And I think she's regretted that decision for a very long time because I became completely and totally obsessed with this world. Question number 2 is, what is your favorite Middle-earth book? And it's a really hard decision. I would have to say The Lord of the Rings, and if we want to get even more specific, I would have to say The Fellowship of the Ring. Just because I love it when the Fellowship is together. I love the Council of Elrond sequence. I absolutely love the scenes at the Barrow Downs, and I'm still a little bit heartbroken that that never actually made it into the movie. The scenes where everyone's sitting around and actually expositing the story, giving all the background information on Sauron, on the ring, on Gollum. I love the scenes in Moria. I love Lothlorien. Most of my major favorite plot points happened in this book. Question number 3 is, which one's your favorite movie? And this is really difficult also. I can tell you that I've watched The Two Towers the most. When I'm having trouble sleeping or I'm bored, that's one of my go-to movies. I don't know why. But I also really love The Fellowship of the Ring, and I also really do love The Return of the King. So I don't think I can really pick. But if I have to, I'd say Two Towers, just because I love all of the scenes in Rohan. Question number 4, of course, is movies or books? And I would have to say books. I know a lot of people who haven't actually read The Lord of the Rings, and they adore the movies. And I think why I love the books so much more is there's just so much more to this world than you actually see in the movies. There's so much more to this world that you don't see in The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit. But it's so descriptive and it feels so real. And if you watch a lot of our videos over at Death of the Author Reviews, you know that I am always hounding on adaptation theory. And I'm not saying that because the books are they're better than the movies. The movies are an adaptation of the book. They are Peter Jackson and co.'s interpretation of this world. Now, I'm not saying that it's a bad interpretation, and I love his interpretation, but there's something more personal about reading the books that I really like, and it's what brings me back to them all the time. Question number 5 is, who's your favorite character? And I have to say, without a doubt, my favorite character is this guy right here. Aragorn. Yes, I totally have an Aragorn action figure. I love his story. I love how you're introduced to him. I love that he's this ranger and he just wants to avoid his fate, but you know, you can't change your fate, and in the end he ends up giving up and becoming this ruler that Gondor needs. And I'm such a sucker for King Arthur narratives, and Aragorn is definitely the whole chosen one, the once and future king, the Fisher King. The land suffers without him, and he doesn't feel one-sided in the fact that that's not his only reason to be in these books. The best comparison with Aragorn is Boromir, because Boromir is who Aragorn could have easily been. And I mean, I have my issues with Boromir. That is a topic for another video. I don't want to go into that rant. I probably should at some point in the future. My other probably close to favorite character, and this has only been recently as I've reread the books, is Gandalf, just because the stuff he has to go through. And I mean, they play that up in the movies, just how he's this wise figure who is secretly an angel, spoilers, and he's just having to deal with this fellowship and keep this world in track when everybody in his order is kind of been distracted by everything going on, and just how he becomes who the world needs him to be. Other honorable mentions include the Four Hobbits, Éowyn and Éomer, and of course, Tom Bombadil. Best actor character casting, again I'd have to say Aragorn and Gandalf. Viggo Mortensen was perfect in every single way possible. He was able to play up the grungy Strider side of Aragorn's character and the kingly side of when he finally accepts his fate. And then also Ian McKellen. It reminds me of something one of my profs said in one of my film classes oh so long ago that really resonated with me, and it was about adaptation and how, think of Gandalf. Gandalf is now forever going to be Ian McKellen. The Gandalf in your mind, the Gandalf who you read from the books, is going to be Ian McKellen. He has become so synonymous with that character, and all these other interpretations are now completely gone. Now this can be read as a good thing or a bad thing, but it's pretty crazy when you think about it. Question number 7 is, what is your favorite place in Middle-earth? Rivendell or Lothlorien. From a young age, when I first read these books, I was obsessed with the elves. Now I'm not as fond of them as I used to be. I still love them. I mean, reading some of the other works has kind of showed to me that, you know, they're not perfect and that being immortal might not necessarily be a good thing. I love the elvish cities. I love the fact that they retain this magic that the rest of Middle-earth is slowly losing. I just love Rivendell. I love Elrond. I love Lothlorien. I love Galadriel. I love their worlds and what they represent, and the kind of sadness and how it kind of harkens back to the theme of industrialization in The Lord of the Rings. And finally, question number 8 is, what is your favorite quote? And there are so many quotes from these books that I love. Not All Those Who Wander Are Lost is one of them, but I think my favorite comes from The Hobbit. And that is, and I wrote it down because I don't have this one memorized, if more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, it would be a merrier world. It just really rings true to me. So that was my very first book tag, and I'm going to tag Chelsea, my partner in crime over at Death of the Author Reviews. So guess what, Chelsea? You get to do a book tag. And I am also going to tag my friend Hannah over at Storynet. Not much else to say. I hope you enjoyed looking at my Tolkien shelf behind me with my little buddy Sauron. But before I go, I want to try a little experiment. So, got my ring. This book smells awesome.